Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Romero Report. I'm Luis Romero, and I'm joined with some very special guests this evening. We're going to be talking about the Forensics State Champions for Magna Vista High School, and I'm joined now by them via Zoom. Of course, COVID has made us adjust the way we do things in our daily life, but enough talking about COVID. Let's get right into this interview. How does it feel to be a state champion? Not a lot of kids in high school, or students, I should say, in high school get the pleasure of saying that they are a state champion. So what is the feeling like? I know that, again, because of COVID, you can't walk in the halls with your head held high now that you're state champion, but you still, I'm pretty sure you got those congratulations for your parents and close friends.
It's really cool because the pandemic took a lot away from me my senior year. I didn't get to do a lot of things that I wanted to do, but I was still able to do this, and I was still able to, win something. So it's really exciting that even though a lot got taken away, something a lot cooler was brought up because of it.
I think that it feels like extremely unreal because I don't know, usually there's like a big celebration and like you hear it all over, but you don't hear that, and it's hard to believe that it happened. I feel like I'm still doing it sometimes. Like I'm still waiting to go to the next competition, even though there's not really going to be one.
I think it feels pretty good because, like Lauren said, a lot did get taken away from all of us. We didn't get to do the show, and we didn't get to do one act for a lot of people. And so having something to do with theater and being able to go to state and win state with that, even with COVID, is pretty good.
It's beyond exciting because last year I did forensics, and my duo partner and I were going to go to state, but then it got canceled. So being able to actually go this year and win is really exciting since we didn't get to do that last year. So it's been an honor.
Awesome. Great to hear that. Now, Mr. Dunn, we're of course going to include you in here as well. How proud are you of the students and them being able to make such a great accomplishment this year?
Oh my gosh, I am beyond proud and excited. Like, these are my kids. Like, I know, like, they're not like mine by law, but like they're my kids, and I think of them that way, that they're my kids. And so I just, I'm so thrilled. I'm so astonished at the hard work that they put in. And, as a coach, you always want your students to realize like the benefit of all the hard work that they put into things. And you don't win every year. And so this year was just such a downer, such a bummer, with so many things being taken away, as you've heard some of the kids talk about. And, when I started talking to other teachers about like we won state, we're literally a month away from when this all happened now. And it still feels like it just happened yesterday. And all I want to do when I hang out with friends, when I talk to other teachers, all I want to do is talk about it. All I want to do is tell everyone, my kids are awesome. My kids are great. Look, like, they won state. And other teachers have come to me and said, like, it's such a great thing that these kids had an opportunity to bring something bright into a year that was kind of full of darkness. So it was a nice ray of sunshine, I know, for a lot of people in the school. And I think the kids just don't know, because they haven't been able to interact with people as much this year. They just don't know what a difference that they made in some of the spirit of a lot of the people at the school.
That is awesome to hear. And for myself, I would like to congratulate, of course, Mr. Dunn for being the coach, and all the students for participating and winning such an awesome title, especially, again, for a year and maybe even over a year of, like Mr. Dunn mentioned, of uncertainty and things that we have not seen before. So congratulations from myself. Now, before we continue our conversation, can we kind of talk about what is forensics when it comes to competing at the high school level? What are some of the things that go along with the type of field that you guys won in?
Forensics is essentially, it's not the science that a lot of people think when they hear science, like when they hear like CSI and stuff like that. It's actually public speaking events. So that's where you get a lot of the theater coming into it. It actually comes from the Greek, where people would actually like work on speaking and work on trying to outspeak one another. And a lot of that was more like argumentative, and then they created this whole interpretive side of things. So what they do is they take pieces of literature and then they create a cutting of that literature, and usually we pick plays and then kind of cut those down into 10-minute versions and perform them.
So I did serious duo with Will, and basically what we had to do was you had to, you know, show a like side of a character that was, you know, sad, you know, traumatic, things like that. So mine and Will's story was a couple's relationship from beginning to a possible ending, and we showed the good and bad parts of the relationship.
We cut it to where it showed the dramatic side of a relationship, but how it can still, even though there's so much negativity, it can still grow into something that's good.
I did storytelling, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You're telling a story to a bunch of, like, you have to act like you're telling a story to a bunch of children. So you have to get a bunch of different voices and big actions and big characters that look believable. And along with it, you're trying to progress through a story. You know, I did a fun story about, it was like going through different stories, it was like this Jack from the Jack and the Beanstalk trying to put on a play, but everything just kept getting interrupted by it. And it was basic stories that you always hear, you know, like The Ugly Duckling or Princess and the Frog, but they had some crazy twists, and there was like songs in there and dances. It's really fun.
So I did humorous dramatic interpretation, and my piece was called So You Want to Be a Cheerleader. And basically, my main character was this super preppy, over-the-top girl looking for that perfect person to carry her team to the championships. And she did not find that perfect person until the very, very end. And then that perfect person was an alien. So totally ridiculous, but it was a lot of fun. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to make someone smile after such a hard year.
To kind of emphasize just how awesome you guys are, what are some of the other individuals that you had to compete against to win this title? Because being able to say that you're a state champion and being able to receive a title like that, a lot of work, a lot of preparation goes in. So can you tell us, I know that some people may think, oh, they won a state title for, you know, maybe public speaking, but let's, again, emphasize just the tough competition that you guys had to go up against.
We had 9 other competitors, 9 other groups. One of them was actually also from Magna Vista, and they got second place where we got third. But our biggest competition at the state level was this one group. It was 2 girls. They had a piece about an insane asylum, and one girl was the person's insanity, and the other one was the girl dealing with her insanity. And they were amazing. And the whole time I kept worrying about their piece. All 3 rounds. I was like, it's so good. It's so good. And Will kept having to, like, we couldn't be in the same room. So he was texting me. He was like, ours is good too. Ours is good too. Reminding me that, you know, we're here at state with them and we're just as strong as they are because we're here too. But yeah, they were definitely, I was worried about them.
There was another group in our category that we beat out by 1 point in the final scoring. Their piece was about a married couple arguing over how he forgot their anniversary.
The competition, it was really tough this year because I remember the first round, like the first competition, I had no clue what was happening. I was so scared. I ended up getting first place, but then at the second round, of course, the competition gets more tough, and I ended up getting second place to a girl who performed Horton Hears a Who. That piece was amazing. At state competition, I remember every time the round would be over, I would run out to Mr. Dunn in the hallway. I'd be like, Mr. Dunn, this girl, she did so good. Like, she did Horton Hears a Who, and her voices, they were perfect. They were just like the movie. Like, I don't know how I'm going to beat that. And I was so scared, and we had to be at home for the awards because of COVID. And I was at home, and I was watching the awards screen, you know, coming up, and I see third place, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I see second place, and it was the girl who did Horton Hears a Who, and I was kind of like, who got first place? And then I see my name, and I was just I was in shock. It was really scary, especially like that. It was such like that we went together, we competed through all these levels, and how she had beat me in the first competition that we were in, and then I ended up beating her in the second one. It was so scary. Like, you never know what's going to happen. And I think storytelling is one of the categories that is more like, you never know who's going to win. The judging is always kind of just up and down, it's a really scary moment.
So I had a very similar experience to Mackenzie. There was this one girl, her piece was amazing. Oh, it was so good. It never got old, and I think I saw it 16 times. It felt like 16 times, but it was so good. And her piece was about a little boy who was on a mission to find the world's greatest mud because him and his family built houses out of mud. So he was on a mission to find the greatest mud to pull his family out of destitution. And the same thing that happened with Mackenzie. First round, I placed first. She placed second. Second round, she placed first. I placed second. So state was really just, I had no idea what was going to happen. It was just a toss of the coin. And I think the big thing that helped me is after the second competition, I went back with Dunn and we were like, okay, what can we do? What can we change to give me an edge? And we made some changes, and I think that made all the difference, because keeping it fresh is so important. I mean, it's only 10 minutes long. You practice it for months, multiple times a day. Keeping it fresh is very important. And yeah, it was just so amazing. But she was one person where if she had beaten me, I don't think I would have been upset, because I think she deserved it as much as I did.
I think one of the things that you realize when you hear the kids talk about each other's pieces is it is very interesting that they're not hateful towards the other pieces. They're very respectful towards the other pieces that are performed, because it's their one opportunity where they really get to interact with kids that kind of enjoy the same thing that they do, and enjoy performing. And you learn how to perform better by watching other people perform, and sometimes by watching people do really, really poorly, but also by watching people do really, really well.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually thank some of our sponsors. We're going to be right back after these messages. Thank you for staying with us. Again, this is the Romero Report. I'm Luis Romero. I'm excited to be joined by some state champions. As you can see, that was a tongue twister there because I'm not used to saying that. And as we continue our conversation, can we talk about how COVID made the way you guys competed a lot different this year? I know that we're tired of hearing about it, but it's still something that we are dealing with.
It was a lot different. I did not compete at the state level last year, but I did have a duo partner. And when you're in person, you can kind of play off what the person does. And if they mess up, you can catch it quicker. But this year, I was in a room alone with a laptop in front of me, and Will was in a completely different room. So that computer lag kind of slowed us down a little bit. So you kind of had to learn to work around that. And there was no reaction. You didn't know how a person felt because you couldn't see them. You couldn't hear them. You were just yelling at a computer screen. But yelling at a computer screen paid off because we won state.
I think that COVID made an already scary thing 10 times scarier, because most people won't even go in front of a room, like they're a room full of their peers and classmates, and speak in front of them. And that's what we do for fun. We just stand up in front of a room and act it out and look crazy sometimes doing it. But it's really scary because for storytelling, you kind of need some giggles. Little children, they'd be ha ha ha, laughing, acting stupid. And you didn't get any of that. And so, of course, since I did storytelling, I had to bring my own audience. And so I brought a bunch of little stuffed animals and set them up behind me so I can watch them while I was performing. And it just kind of made it a little bit more fun and added a little bit more of a welcoming environment in there. And I remember, like, in between rounds, we would all FaceTime each other, go sit in the hallways and, like, ask each other how our rounds went. Because usually with theater competitions, you get a social aspect where you can make friends along the way. We didn't really get to do that. I could not tell you any of my competitors' names because we all have little numbers at the corner of our screen. So I think it allowed us to bond a lot more as a team.
I think it was tough to do a duo partner with, because not only did we have to schedule a bunch of Zoom meetings so we could practice it, we still had to work off of a screen. And the few times we did practice in person, you could tell the difference in, I guess, how it tone was, how it snapped between the two of us. Because on the camera, we have to have a little pause between so it catches up. But in person, we were able to feed right off of each other. So it's just more difficult to carry that over onto the computer.
So for me, I was doing humorous dramatic interpretation. And, a lot of that is, do people find me funny? And so not being able to really always see what the judges think of you is really difficult. Because even in person, some judges try to hide what they're feeling to make you think, oh, maybe they don't like my piece, And it was even more hidden this time. And so, yeah, that made it really difficult. But there was one point in time where, I'd competed, the girl I mentioned earlier, against her for 3 rounds. Never spoken to her, didn't know her name, but we ended up for one of our rounds, the judges were late. And so we were sitting in the room on the Zoom call for about 10 minutes before they came in. And I was like, you know what? I want to say hello. And so we unmuted and we finally got to talk to each other. And that just felt so good because it feels like you know this person from watching them for so long. And it was amazing to be able to tell her how amazing she was.
So when we talk about state champions, and I'm saying that word a lot because, you deserve to be called what you are, especially with all the hard work that goes behind such a great title and a big title and a great accomplishment. So, you don't just wake up and go to the competition and then be awarded a state title. What kind of goes into getting ready? What kind of preparation and putting that piece together? What all goes behind the scenes that maybe we, as the general public, don't know about?
It would be normal to say that most people know that we do practice and we do rehearse things, but I don't think people know to what degree we practice and rehearse and really start this whole process. But it is a process, and it is, even though it's only a 10-minute piece, it is a long process because the way that I coach, I let my students pick the category that they want to do. I let them choose the piece of literature that they want to do, and then it's just my job to help guide them to arranging it and performing it as best as they possibly can. But for most of the students that were on the state team, they were working on these pieces for close to 4 months by the time they hit state, from the very inception of I'm going to do forensics to I won state.
I actually, when I made my piece, I used a comic book that I really enjoyed, a graphic novel. And so I had to take all of their little speech bubbles and then turn them into lines and, make them cohesive lines throughout those little speech bubbles in each picture. And it took a long time to get it actually down to 10 minutes. It was around 16 minutes when I first finished it. So me and Will took it to Dunn, and Dunn was like, you gotta fix it. And he helped us along the way. He helped us cut it down. And the hardest part for me was definitely the cutting, because there was so much that I wanted to keep in and there was so much that I thought was interesting, but it was too long. So there were pieces that I could keep, but there were pieces that I had to let go because they took too long. But yeah, like Mr. Dunn said, it was 4 months of, running it and practicing it. And Will and I would practice on FaceTime, but we had to work around like work schedules and like family events and school. So it was kind of complicated, working with a partner, because we weren't able to, just, hey, come over to my house, we'll practice. It was, can you FaceTime for an hour today?
The hardest part was getting the time to sit down and learn it, because I'm in governor's school, which is like, I'm taking college classes, so I should graduate with my associate's degree. But that means I have like twice as much work to do. And especially in the beginning, learning how to balance that much schoolwork with my life and the things that I enjoyed, I would push the things that I enjoyed to the side. And so forensics, it was the same kind of thing. And at some point in time, it just felt like such a burden, like, oh, how am I going to be able to pull this off? I talked to my mom once and I was like, do you think it'd be better if I just quit? And she's like, no, Brianna, this is something you love. Get it together, pull through, you can do it. And finally, like a week before competition, I actually sat down, practiced it, learned it. I think I came in and done was shocked that I actually had gotten myself together. And I pulled it off and I placed first. And I'm so glad that I did it, because once you get into it, it is something that I love and it's something that I'm passionate about. And I don't know, quitting would have been horrible.
The process is so long. I think me and Dunn started working on my piece in the middle of December maybe, and it wasn't finished getting cut until January maybe. It's such a long process, and because you have to, like, I took a whole play, I think it was a full-length play, and we had to cut it down to 10 minutes. And that's such a crazy thing to think about. Like, you're taking something that's supposed to last an hour to like a little over an hour, and you're cutting it all the way down to 10 minutes. And especially with storytelling, like my category, I like to choose a story that is well known, but kind of has like a little remix to it, to keep everybody interested. So everybody can follow along a little bit easier, but then they get caught off guard when there's a singing duck. It's a lot of fun. And I remember it was like the 2 days before the first competition, I think. And Mr. Dunn and I were practicing, and I could not remember the piece whatsoever. And Mr. Dunn was so worried. He was like, Mackenzie, are you okay to compete? And I was like, yeah, just don't even worry about it. And luckily at this time, we had a couple of power outages, so I had no electronics, so I had no other choice but to practice the piece the day before competition. And it ended up paying off. I got first place at the first round, but I definitely learned that I needed to memorize my piece faster than 2 days before competition.
Like Lauren said, I think the hardest part about our piece was finding the time to always go over it. And since it's a piece about a couple fighting, it was easy to get into an argument after we're done. So it led into a lot of arguments. So that was a fun part. But, we eventually learned to just, the characters are arguing, not us. So, and she did most of the cutting, so I helped her a little bit, but I'm not going to say I did much.
So our next question is going to be, and our last, because we are running out of time, what would you say was the biggest takeaway? It could either have been the journey to the competition itself, or maybe even something that you were able to take away even after some of that was able to kind of fade away or start to calm down.
My biggest takeaway was definitely the state competition itself, because I was very anxious and very scared, and I was just like, I can do this, and it made me confirm that, that even if I'm scared of something, I can still do it.
I learned that you should always enjoy the little things, because over the past year, as we learned, that you never know when things are going to get taken away from you. So you should never give up on what you love and continue to do it, even if it may be a lot of work. Just continue to do what you love.
What I took away is, no matter how hard something is, if you really enjoy doing it, you'll find a way to balance it with everything else you want to do. You'll find a way to push through and do something you really enjoy doing, just for the fact that you enjoy doing it. Even if it sucks at times, it gets better before it gets worse.
What I took away most was never give up on the things that you love, because that is what fuels you to be better and helps you get through that day-to-day drama.
I kind of have two takeaways. Number one, just not so much of a takeaway, really, more than just confirmation that I have some great students that are very talented, and I'm so glad that sometimes I question myself, am I pushing them too hard? Am I being too hard on them? And then, when things like this happen, I am just thrilled to know, yes, I pushed them the exact right amount because they got something out of it. And my other takeaway is really just confidence. Just, and seeing things grow and seeing that, you can always grow, you can always get better, and always appreciate everything that you have, because you never know.
So that's going to do it here for the Romero Report. Again, I want to congratulate each and every one of you for a great accomplishment. I'm excited to be able to showcasing you and featuring you on my recent show here at BTW21. But I stay with BTW21 as we have a lot more great local programming coming up after this break.
Help me down.